After Major 1 last weekend, Rostermania is truly underway. With Optic Gaming being at the centre, this could be the start to a domino effect. So if you didn't know, the rumour right now is that Optic Texas are going to be bringing in Pred and Arcities and dropping Dashi and Illy. Before I get into this new potential roster, I just want to talk about the existing Optic Texas team and maybe why it didn't live up to its potential. This roster formed at the start of Vanguard and had Dashi as the main AR, Illy as your flex, and then Shotzzy and Scump as your SMGs. A very exciting roster at the time that had the perfect start, winning Major 1 and taking down the current world champions Atlanta FaZe. A perfect fairy tale start, but talent was never the issue with this squad, and we saw what happens when the team are on the same page. Looking back at Major 1, they had to reverse sweep Atlanta FaZe to get to the winners final, and then had to play them once again in the grand final. And this is where Illy had the performance of his life and the best series he's ever had in the CDL, and this helped the Green Wall take out Atlanta FaZe for the championship. And although they had an incredible start, the problem started to it. The main issue I had with the team was the pacing. Statistically, Dashi was always playing well, locking down lanes and doing his job, but I think that Illy and Scump had very similar pacing, and both played at a bit of a slower pace when you compare that to Shotzzy, who had a very aggressive style. This is why we saw Optic lose so many times to rosters that on paper were just not as good as this team, because the SMG duo of Shotzzy and Scump just didn't have the pure aggression and pacing of the other SMGs in the league. I personally think that Illy is a lot more suited to that main AR role, and although this might come as a shock, I really think he suits that role well. He can have the same kind of impact that accuracy has as Seattle Surge. In fact, I even think he'll be better at it. His natural strengths are to lead in game and his decision making, especially in S&D, and as a main AR, this will just allow him to play at that slower pace and just be the glue that the team needs, doing things that no one else would do. He may not slay as the other players in the league, but he always does the dirty work that we don't see on the scoreboard, and I honestly think that he would thrive playing in that accuracy role. I saw a lot of people on Twitter talk about maybe dropping Illy and getting another flex. You may get someone who slays more than Illy, but even if that's the case, you lose a lot of leadership in the team, and if the replacement is also a slower player, then we still have a pacing issue. This is why I think Scump moving to the flex role is the perfect solution. He has naturally slowed down his gameplay over the last few years, and whenever we see him pick up an AR, we see him absolutely fry and perform at his very best. Once again, we saw this last year on Gavutu, where he would use an automation and always have himself in an insane map, just showing how good he could be in that flex role. Putting Scump on the flex role allows him to play at the slower pace, which he already does, but this time it doesn't negatively affect the team. I actually think this way you might actually get the best out of Scump for his final year. You can see how comfortable he is on this game without slide cancelling, and he's so good with an AR and an SMG. This new role might just grant him the freedom to be an MVP in his final season. So now we've got Scump as your flex, Dashi as your main AR, and Shotzzy as your SMG. I want to just stop and talk about Shotzzy for a second. Shotzzy is at his best when he's allowed to take a route, make a play, and just cause chaos for the other team. He plays his life to perfection, and when his team set him up to play like that, it makes the whole team's job easier. Some of these clips, you can see that his movement and finesse is so god tier that the other team are sending 2 or 3 people to try kill him, and he's just buying time for his teammates to set up. In order for Shotzzy to play like this, he needs an aggressive SMG duo that can play at a high pace and cause chaos in the other team's setup. Pred is the perfect duo for Shotzzy. He plays at an extremely high pace and one of the most impactful players in the league. Together, they will just be able to find gaps in other teams' setup and just cause chaos for enemy teams all game long. This duo on paper has a very similar feel to the Tiny Terrorists in Cold War, where they absolutely dominated series as a duo and many teams failed to contain them. So now we've got Dashi as your main AR, Scump on the flex, and Pred and Shotzzy as your sub duos. This looks amazing. It looks incredible on paper. This team would definitely be good enough to compete and even win events, but now the problem is the team is no natural leader. Scumpy is the most suited to be the leader in that team, but that has never been his strongest attribute. The main ARs are naturally the leader as they have more of an insight to what's happening on the map and they can control a lot more when they're in the power position. This is where the decision happens to replace Dashi with Arcities. If we're going to be going on pure raw gun skill and talent, I think Dashi has the highest ceiling in the league. But Arcities has proven time and time again that on a top team he's consistently a top 3 AR, and in the last 2 years he has found so much success that it's only natural for him to be Dashi's replacement on this roster. It's a real shame here that Dashi has to be sacrificed in this scenario, as his talent is definitely not an issue, but I honestly think there's a chemistry issue with this team. They almost split up in the off-season, and there has to be a reason why. They're trying to run it back and it just didn't work out. Overall, I think this might benefit everyone. Illy can definitely unlock his true potential in another team, in my opinion, playing as a main AR and really commanding the troops. Dashi, again, so talented. I think he can really have an impact on another team. Maybe the playstyle just didn't work for him, or maybe there's a chemistry issue, but I don't have any doubt that he will get unlocked in a different roster. And when it comes to Scump and Shotzzy, I really think Scump for this last year has to give it a go at that flex role. I think he'll be perfect for that. And Shotzzy just needs a faster SMG duo with him. He's been playing so good. His potential is honestly incredible. You can see it in some series where he absolutely takes over, and at the same time he's had a few series where you're really questioning him, but I honestly think that's down to the pacing of the team. When he's the only one playing that aggressive style, especially with a game like this where the TTK is so quick, it's so hard for him to stand out. But in terms of this predicted Optic roster, I'm so excited to see it. If it actually happens, it'll be incredible, and I think it will really shake up the COD scene. If this roster does take place, then you're going to see loads of rosters making changes to accommodate the players. But this team honestly has everything. You got the best leader in the last 3 years as your main AR. You got Scumpy transition to the flex role, which will get the best out of him. And then you have two of the most exciting and aggressive SMG duos in the game. Overall, this team looks really good on paper, and I'm so excited to see how the rest of the Rostermania plans out. Let me know what you guys think of the comments, your thoughts on the roster, thoughts on the predicted roster, and where you think Dashi and Illy might go. Also, if you enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel.